That's one of the most frustrating pieces of advice you can get is just swing more to the right, right? Like that's going to fix it all. Well, what I found is that something called constraint sled approach, and there's tons of research on this, is way easier to fix your path issues than just an idea of trying to swing more to the right. And what that means is you're putting a physical constraint to guide you to the correct swing direction. So for example, I have this set up straight, and if I go ahead and swing, I would say a path or the direction my club is moving through impact, anything less than 3 degrees is going to be a pretty straight ball flight. So I'm going to go ahead here. I have this set up straight for where my radar is set up right now. And I'm going to go ahead and make what feels like a square swing and just matching where these sticks are going. And we'll see what the radar says my path is. Let's go ahead and give it a whirl. There you go, nice straight shot. And we can see there my club path, the direction that I was swinging. That's a great shot, be right in the just a few feet, 10 feet right of the hole for a birdie putt. My club path was 0.8 degrees to the left. Anything under 3 degrees is fantastic, so I'm basically swinging dead straight there. Now, if I'm a player that tends to be over the top like I talked about, then when I set up the brick like this with a square path, it's going to, in my mind, seem really difficult to miss this outside stick and not whack into these sticks. It's going to feel like what is straight is actually to the left. So working on hitting these straight shots, just putting these sticks down here in the square divot setting is going to help to straighten up your path. Now, if you're a player that's, excuse me, player that struggled with this for a while, to improve your progress and speed it up a little bit, I would do something called interleaving practice. And all I would do is line up these sticks about 10 yards to the right, maybe 15 yards to the right of your target in the distance. Now, naturally, what's going to happen here, I'm going to go ahead and set up fairly straight with my feet toward the target. And I'm going to realize, man, I'm going to have to change some things to be able to get my club to move that direction. Here's a couple hints to help with that. Number one, I like to work on the hips. And if my hips, if you're the kind of player that tends to bump the hip this way in the backswing, to bump it that way, all of a sudden that opens up tons of room for me to swing over here. And what's going to tend to happen is I'll come over the top and swing to the left. So the more my hips bump this way, the easier it is to swing too far to the left. If I do the opposite and I bump my hip a little bit that way, so you'll notice when I do that, it's almost like having this club push into your hip. All of a sudden it tilts my upper body back. When I do that, that gets my shoulders a little more closed. So as I tilt my upper body back, my hips and my shoulders are going to close. And instead of having room over here, now my hip's in the way. All of this is blocked off, but I have a lot of room from in here. I can easily swing more from the inside. So as I bump my hips, I feel like my hips and my shoulders close. I'm going to be setting up for a more inside-out swing path. And now it seems like that I've made this little adjustment in my setup that it's easy to swing the direction these sticks are pointing, which is a little more to the right. So now when I try this out, it's going to be easier to get that inside-out path. Let's go ahead and give it a whirl here. There you go, another nice solid shot, drawing back. And you'll see when I look at the radar, by making those simple adjustments, tweaking the sticks a little more to the right, getting my body in a position to where I feel like I could swing down those sticks, that changed my path to 6.9 degrees to the right, so a pretty significant inside-out path. If you're struggling to draw the ball, really get loose with the hands. I find so many players are trying to just muscle this club through there, hold the face straight as long as they can. That keeps the face open. Feel like you're loose with the hands and you're letting this face release. So you're letting your forearms, after impact, roll over each other. And if I'm looking at the toe of the club, I'm letting that toe almost wrap around the golf ball and release that way. If you're slicing it or if you're feeling like you're fading too much, almost always too tight. Let that club release on over. Let the club feel like, if this is a golf ball, I'm going to feel like the club wraps around the outside of the ball as I come through impact. That's going to get it to draw more. Now, if I'm a player that tends to do the exact opposite, to overhook the ball, all I'm going to do is speed up my improvement by exaggerating the opposite direction that we just did there. So this was set up for a player that tends to fade or slice. If I want to fix a hook, so say I get a couple snap hooks with my driver and I don't want to do that anymore, You can use this with a driver or an iron, either one's fine. If I get a couple snap hooks, the first thing I'm going to do is do the exact opposite of what we just talked about. I'm going to line this more up to the left. I'm going to get my path going a little bit more left through impact. And if I'm a player that tends to snap hook, I may be getting too far what we just talked about there. I may be over-exaggerating. Maybe I'm working on a draw and it felt great, and now all of a sudden I'm overdoing it and really hitting some hooks and I'm way too tilted forward. I'm going to feel like I'm a little more vertical with my body. I'm going to feel like my right arm is a little more on top versus kind of underneath like this. This would be way from the inside. If I have the right arm a little more on top, it makes it easier to swing a little more left. But now I'm just going to really get my body in a position to where when I look down at this golf ball, I feel like my body is aligned to where I can swing to the left and have a more left path. And when I do that, and I just try to swing down between these two sticks, there we go. Now all of a sudden my path changed to 7.1 degrees to the left. So I started off at 0. I made some adjustments, and in one swing, by changing the sticks, I was able to get an inside-out path. By changing it in the opposite direction, I was able to get an outside-in path, So the goal is to get a 0 path. So if you tend to come over the top, exaggerate with a few inside-out ones, once you're able to hit a few draws, go back to square again and work on those straight shots. And the more you do this, the easier and easier it gets. And I love this because you just set the sticks down. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. You set the sticks down toward the target in the distance. You stand behind it to make sure it's lined up correctly. And all I've got to do is position my body to where I can swing through these sticks. And I've yet to find anyone that can't do that. With a little bit of practice, anyone can swing a club that just moves through these two sticks. If I tend to overdraw it, I work on the fade side drills. If I tend to overfade it, I work on the draw side drills to increase the speed of improvement. But I always go back to the centered ones to find that dead center shot. You do that, the ball flight is going to greatly straighten out. You're going to have control of your ball flight, and you're never going to have to worry about somebody telling you again, hey, just swing more inside out. Or, hey, you're swinging too far inside out, you need to swing more over the top. You don't have to worry about anybody bothering you with that. You're going to know what straight is, and you're going to have it pretty daggone fine-tuned with a very little amount of practice.